our first look at Gregg Berhalter's squad. In nearly 10 months, they played to a scoreless draw with Wales, 0-0 in Swansea. Just the one shot on goal for the United States. We just see a very young lineup for Gregg Berhalter. The average age, 22 years, just over 22 years old. The fourth youngest lineup ever for the United States. We saw 3 debuts as well. Speaking of 3, we got quite the trio to break this thing down. Kasey Keller, Steve Cherundolo, and Ian Darke. Kasey, I'll start with you. Our first look at Gregg Berhalter's side in almost a calendar year. What'd you make of the performance against Wales?
Well, I thought it was decent. I mean, I liked the energy. I liked the commitment. I thought they pressed Wales well. They caused, some problems in midfield without really being kind of too expansive in the final third. Defensively, they were comfortable, except for a couple times when they tried to overplay out of the back and almost gifted Wales the opportunity in which Zach Steffen was able to make a save or two. So for the most part, I think it's positive. I'm still worried about that final third in the attack and, who are going to be those dynamic players. I know we were missing Pulisic. I know Josh Sargent wasn't able to travel, but the big worry I have is who's going to score the goals and are they going to come consistently?
Steve, I wonder about you. You have the same concerns as Kasey? The goals, just the one shot on goal for the U.S. in this match.
Certainly, after, if we're talking about tonight's performance, there was not much presence from the U.S. team in the Welsh penalty box. Really, Sebastian Lletget was the only one trying to get in on the end of crosses and anywhere near the goal. So, overall, the performance, I agree with Kasey, it was very promising, especially in the areas of possession and the boys feeling comfortable on the ball. They're very far along for being a very young squad. The only thing that's missing is really exposing the opponent's back line and getting in behind them and trying to score goals. So these deep penetrating runs is an element of the game that they're going to have to add moving forward if they want to get on the scoring board.
Ian, what was your take on the performance? We should note this wasn't the best Wales. Gareth Bale up in the luxury suites, probably watching the Masters during this match.
He probably was as well. But remember, the USA didn't have Christian Pulisic, and I think there would have been a lot more devil about the attack if he'd been fit and firing. There wasn't enough threat in the final third. But I'm with the other two guys there. I think it was a promising performance. When you think where this USA team have been in the last 3 years, and 3 years ago they failed to qualify for the World Cup, and after that really it was a sea of heartbreak and disillusion, even disinterest maybe in the team. Here you've got a bunch of young players who are playing in the Champions League. They're playing for teams like Borussia Dortmund, Juventus, Barcelona, Leipzig. So this is promising. This is a group of players. Tonight, it's a decent result, no more than that. But I think there's really something promising building up. Obviously, there's a long way to go, but this is an upbeat note.
Kasey, let's talk about the number 9 position. This is one that clearly Gregg Berhalter has to figure out. We saw Sebastian Lletget as a false 9, I guess we can call it today. Gio Reyna clearly had his run of the field wherever he wanted to go. Is it just going to be Jozy Altidore because there is no other option moving forward?
I think Jozy Altidore is a viable option. I think we're going to continue to see the development of Josh Sargent. And I think that was a disappointment for a lot of fans that he wasn't able to travel because of COVID protocols in Bremen. So that was frustrating because I would have loved to have seen him in that young lineup. Yes, I agree that Jozy will probably have a say simply because right now nobody else has emerged, from that position to challenge. And it's frustrating. I think it's obviously frustrating for fans. It's frustrating for Gregg because when you can really count on that number 9 to not only be a goal scorer for you, but also set up so many other attacks, it's huge for any club, any country around the world. And just think of what Lewandowski is. And to have that player that Bayern can count on, that Poland can count on, that you just know that he's going to be there game in and game out, and just what that gives aside. And the U.S. right now is really searching for that. And so you're hoping for a set piece. You're hoping for a run out of midfield, a shot from distance, where you don't have that true pivot in that center of the park that you can count on.
Steve, one of the players that people were focused on today, Eunice Musa, 17-year-old, plays for Valencia. He's played for and captained England at the youth national team level, so we assume there's going to be a little bit of a scrap here for him. What'd you make of his first performance for the United States? And then how critical do you think it is to lock him in for the future? Were you convinced?
I was. For 17 years old, I thought he was very good. He was very bright on the ball. He had good ideas. He used his body well. I think he was one of the better players in the middle of the park for us tonight. So I do believe that, Gregg will make his case and the rest of the team will as well. And I think just from judging on the performance in front of the TV tonight, I thought he felt very comfortable in the squad, which is a great sign moving forward for the U.S. team.
Steve, plenty of other young players, plenty of other players that we got our first look at with the U.S. Who else stood out for you tonight?
Well, certainly, Gio Reyna was one that, I would like to point out. It's great to see the name Reyna back in the mix. I thought he felt very comfortable out there. He certainly didn't look like a player who was playing his first game, which is something I expected as well because he has had some Champions League matches under his belt already. I thought Weston McKinney was bright again tonight, a player who we saw in the first half more involved in the build-up play, but really a player we need moving forward and trying to expose the opponent behind their back line with those deep runs. He's very, very good at that. And he did a lot more of that in the second half, which is, I think is going to be his role moving forward if we do not have this classic number 9 moving forward.
Kasey, one player I don't think we've mentioned yet is Tyler Adams, the first time that he's been with the U.S. since March of 2019, combination of injuries and everything else. We finally saw him in a position that a lot of U.S. fans wanted to see him in with the U.S., and that's at the number 6, not at outside back, where we sometimes see him with his club team. Do you think at the end of the day that's where Adams is going to end up?
Well, I think the reason why Gregg played him at times out wide is because I don't think he felt that he had the outside backs to choose from. Well, now, clearly he has outside backs to choose from, and it makes it more comfortable to put Tyler Adams in that more comfortable defensive midfield role. I thought Tyler was fantastic. I loved the way that that the whole back line, including that defensive mid, just shifted forward and really pushed Wales high up and made it difficult for him. And Tyler was a big reason for that in being able to boss that defensive midfield role. And I thought he looked really comfortable linking then with the other midfielders to put balls behind, at least maybe not the back 4, back 5 of Wales, but at least putting it behind the midfield and turning that attack. So I thought Tyler Adams was fantastic. The real question mark now is can he stay fit for extended periods of time? Can he now push and become that out-and-out starter again for RB Leipzig and be that guy that Gregg Berhalter can really trust in that very crucial defensive midfield role?
Ian, last word to you and the optimism to which you speak about. You look at this lineup, the starting 11 that Gregg Berhalter used in this match. Manchester City, Barcelona, Juventus, Dortmund, Leipzig, Valencia, just to mention a few of the clubs that are represented. I mean, if you're a U.S. fan, this is a first, you got to feel great about it.
Yeah, I think so. And a lot of people outside the USA, and I know people inside the USA have been very down on the team in the last 3 years, but people outside the USA and the commentators on British television tonight were saying, this is a slick, young USA team. These young Americans are taking the eye. The team looked pretty comfortable on the ball. There wasn't enough devil in attack, that's for certain, but there's some quality there in that, and you've got a nucleus of something to move forward with, and that wasn't always looking like it would be the case many points in the last 3 years. So I think the team's on the right lines. I'd like to see it with everybody fit and in a match that really mattered. But is this team going to qualify for the World Cup this time? Yes, they will.
To Ian's point about having everybody available, what we saw today, how close is that to the best 11, Steve, that you think Gregg Berhalter can put out? Obviously, we're missing guys like Sargent, Pulisic, Josie Altidore, but are there any other names that you could see working their way into a starting place?
I think those 3 names you mentioned are ones that, we're missing at the time. And I think there's probably a name out there we haven't heard yet, or a player that we may not be have considering right now. It's always those players who come on late, they come on strong, maybe at their club level, who will get a call up and who will be a force in this team and who will become a part of the team long term. So there's always somebody on the list that nobody deals with or nobody thinks of right now. But those three names that you mentioned are the ones that I'm really looking forward to see in a competitive match.
Kasey, a lot of the guys involved in the MLS playoffs, obviously not with this group. Jordan Morris is probably another name I should have mentioned there, yeah?
Yeah, Jordan would have been the guy that even if not a starter, we talked about trying to be dynamic in the final third. And to come on in a game, half an hour, 20 minutes left, a couple tired legs out there, we've obviously seen at times, both from starting and coming off the bench, that Jordan Morris can make a difference. Obviously when he came on and scored the big goal in Amsterdam for that win against Holland. So it's a case that Jordan Morris will be one of those guys, albeit either as a starter or off the bench, that can make a difference in the final third.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.